Well, good afternoon, Tanse, everybody. I welcome you to BC Innovate. We're really honored to have you join us, to have you part of our virtual circle, virtual family here. I'm really excited for today's guest speaker. Just taking a moment to acknowledge the goodness of Creator. I really believe that wherever we go, whatever season that we're walking in our lives, that there is goodness, that Creator's goodness surrounds us wherever, our path takes us. So just take a moment and acknowledge, some gratitudes that you hold in your heart today. There's always something to be thankful for, and to extend that energy, that attitude of gratitude. So just take that moment, press pause, and acknowledge the goodness of Creator, that sun rose in the east and a promise of a new day. So here we are, we're walking out this brand new day. Midday, we're doing our thing, we're making those good connections, we're hopefully treating ourselves kind, we're treating the land around us in a good way, and just being mindful of the people that Creator has put along our path, that we just treat each other with kindness and gentleness and love and compassion, and that we would treat ourselves the same way. So hope that you are doing well midweek. And for those who are joining, watching this later on, I just hope wherever you are in your journey, that you are doing well. All right, so let's get down to business. I am super honored to introduce our guest speaker today. So the webinar title is Indigiqueer Women in Business. So looking forward to hearing what our guest speaker has to say. So you've joined Sage for this afternoon for the next 45 to 50 minutes, and she's going to discuss the programs and initiatives that helped equip her with the tools to identify the idea that became Sage Initiative in 2019. How cool is that? So we're going to learn about her experience navigating the public and private sector as a queer Indigenous woman with bold ideas. I love it. I live for that. All right, so Sage Lacerte is a carrier woman from the Lake Babine Nation, and I'm sorry if I said that wrong, Sage. I know that you will correct me. And a member of the Bear Clan. Growing up with culture rooted in the Friendship Center movement, Sage has always had a steadfast commitment to being in service of her people, rematriation, and decolonizing systems. After completing a degree from University of Victoria in gender studies, Sage founded the Sage Initiative, an impact investment collective for Indigenous women across Canada. I think that is so important, so profound, so needed. So go you, that's amazing. So her worldview centers on relationships to each other and to Mother Earth. Sage has acted as a national youth ambassador for the Moosehide Campaign, created by her father and sister since 2019, is a member of the board of Victoria Native Friendship Center, and a member of the Lieutenant Governor's Youth Advisory Council. So she's really involved in community and important initiatives. And I think you're just down the street. I'm in Nanaimo today. So I think you're like down the street from me, like maybe an hour away, joining us from Victoria. And it's just beautiful out here in BC. So we welcome you to our virtual community stage. I'm going to pass this virtual mic over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the warm welcome and introduction. That was so thoughtful. I always have to kind of take deep breaths and just receive some of those honoring and celebratory words. And I always introduce myself in my language, so I'll just start that way. Hadi Sage Lacerte Sadni, Loretta Madam Slu, Paul Lacerte Spa, Tebes Nachaya, Lakwangin Keo, Saiklana Lashabu Injan, Yankatene Keo. So I said my name is Sage Lacerte, and I am a carrier woman from the Lake Babine Nation in central BC. If you know where Prince George is, it's roughly 2 hours northwest of Prince George. And I said that my dad is Paul Lacerte, and he's from Nutley-Whutton First Nation. And my mom is the late Loretta Madam, and she comes from Lake Babine, and that's how I have my affiliation to Lake Babine. And a lot of the things that I've done for my whole life, in my work, in my school, with my friends, with my family, it all ties back to that home place. I go there to practice my culture. I go there to fast. I go there to hunt. I go there to fish. I go there to pick berries and can them. This year, I'm really honored to share that I practiced my first, well, I've been moose hunting since I was born, but this is the first time that I've hunted my own moose. And as much as I want to celebrate some of those things surrounding my work and our community wealth, I also want to take those moments to celebrate coming of age in our culture that we've sometimes maybe lost a little bit of touch with. I know that when we're young people, we talk a lot about like for people who menstruate, having a coming of age when they get their moon time or when they get their period. And for men, sometimes it's a little bit different. Sometimes it's around puberty, but really it's kind of not. Recently, I've noticed that it's a little bit more oriented towards older youth. A part of my work and one of the reasons why I love the roles that I have in my community is to really just be an auntie and to be there for you and to listen to your stories and to show up in a way that says, I will be there for you, no questions asked. I think that's something that's really important about our community right now. And there's a lot of power in togetherness, and being present for someone is something that we can do right now when people are feeling very lonely, when there's quite a bit of isolation, to be there for someone and to say, I'm an open ear, and I come in a non-judgmental way, I come in a good way, I come with some of my tools in my basket, maybe some cultural tools, maybe some other stuff that I picked up along the way. And I'm here to really just observe and integrate what we co-create together. That's my whole thesis of all of the things that I want to share with you, is really that I'm kind of just striving to be this auntie figure that I've had so much in my life. And I've had so many really wise and rad aunties just inform, and matriarchs inform the way that I work in collaboration with the various communities and families that I'm a part of. So I wanted to open that way and just to share a little bit about myself and how I kind of got here, because my parents came, again, from the Carrier Territory. They came from Burns Lake and Fraser Lake, which are neighboring towns. My mom was like the most beautiful woman, really good dancer. Everybody always talked so well about her and said that she was just someone that everyone wanted to meet. And my dad was working at the band office in Prince George, and he really, really wanted to hang out with her and talk to her and take her on a date. And she was like, oh, I don't know about this. And so they would go out. And at the time, he was mapping trap lines in the Carrier Territory. That was his job. And so they began growing their relationship in that way. And he wanted to go to the University of Victoria and continue pursuing his work in the Friendship Center movement. So he came to Victoria, and that's how I got here. So they grew their family here, and I'm one of 6 kids We were all raised in the friendship centers. So here on Vancouver Island, I would go to the Victoria Native Friendship Center, or back home, I would go to the Prince George Native Friendship Center. And really, we would just kind of get passed around like a beach ball, and everyone would just all take us and carry us and tell us their stories and sing us songs. And so I feel really grateful to have been raised with my culture, but also really kind of by the community. Um, I was informed very much by my dad's role as the executive director of the BC Friendship Centers. And he was in that role for nearly 20 years. So I learned so much about community organizations. I learned a lot about the services that are available for our urban Indigenous people in British Columbia, and how big of an impact it is when we actually listen to our people and say, hey, like, what are our needs here? And what are our areas that we could work on? And what are the areas that we're really excelling in? So I had my ear open to that a lot. A few suggestions that I have, if anybody is considering becoming more involved, especially oriented towards friendship centers, is either to be on the youth councils, or also to be to look and see when the next AGM is and potentially run for one of the board of directors. Just over a year ago, I ran for the Victoria Native Friendship Center board, and now I sit on their youth seat, and I'm learning so much. And when I was younger, I learned a lot from the youth council as well. I think maybe my sister was on the youth council, and I just got information from her because I was too nervous to join. And maybe that's a good indicator and lesson for myself, which says, even if it seems daunting or if it seems out of reach, to always put your name in the hat and just see what the outcome could be. Especially for women, we find that women apply for a lot less roles and positions based on the list of needs that you, like, if you have a certain training or all these proficiencies, and that men are more willing to apply for roles and jobs that they're not qualified for whatsoever. And then they get those positions. So one of the kind of gendered aspects here is that I would love to encourage folks to consider where we can throw our name in the hat and where we can kind of just insert our voice and put our name out there and see what the opportunity is. That's something that I've chosen to do over the past few years, especially, is to just kind of take stock of what the community looks like. If you walk into a space, or if you look at their website and you look at their team, who is the team comprised of? And to just take note of the kind of intersectional identities that we're looking for. And often the leadership is really reflective of that organization's values. So I would really encourage everyone to go to, and it doesn't have to be a friendship center, but I would say as a suggestion, I want to offer a few suggestions throughout our conversation so that it's not just me going on about all of these movements that I'm so in love with, but I will give you a lot of to-dos and people to go look up after we chat. I know that this will be shared, and for the folks who are watching, I'd just like to welcome an opportunity while we're just kind of opening here to think about what you would say if we were in circle right now. And I offered my introductions. I said my name's Sage, my mom's name is Loretta, and I'm carrier. My pronouns are she, her. And just kind of to give you a moment in our conversation to introduce yourself to me, although I know I won't be able to hear you. I'm just going to be quiet for a second and to allow space for you to share into this circle. While I do that, I'm also just going to invite you to take a few breaths with me, to take a few shared breaths with me, and to just honor the space that we're creating today. So I'm just going to plant my feet on the floor and put my hands just on my lap. I'm just going to take a few breaths with you. Just calling attention to the body, where you're at today. Maybe set your intentions. I'm really grateful to have been invited to join you. I take it quite seriously when folks ask me to come and to share some of my stories and experiences. I hold them very dear to me. And I think, especially as an Indigenous entrepreneur, and for the folks who are also Indigenous entrepreneurs, your ideas are so much linked to yourself, to your sense of self. And so I always want to kind of hold space for that and to just take stock. So in those breaths, I noticed that I kind of like the breath was coming into my shoulders and into my chest. So just kind of, I'm maybe holding some energy here today. And that's just good to note every single day when you enter a meeting, or if you're offering a presentation, or if you're in a space that's new, that maybe you're trying to share your idea with someone. I always invite you to do one of these few practices that could help you. One, grounding. So either if you're able to, I like to without any shoes or like socks on, like with my feet actually touching the floor, or to do it outside when you can be on the earth, and to get into the body by just being close to the breath for a moment. Sometimes you can also, a fire alarm just went off. I hope it's just a test in my building. I'll let you know if we need to take a break. Another thing that I like to do is a little bit of tapping as well. You can tap the body, and a little bit on the cheeks is in particular, I find to be really helpful. And that just wakes up your parasympathetic nervous system and just kind of really gets you back into the zone. If you're a more like physical movement person, I would say, like for me, I like to do cat-cow or child's pose for 1 or 2 minutes, just sitting in child's pose, not looking at my phone, not listening to music, just kind of focused attention. And I would say that that has helped me significantly as someone who often offers presentations and who's involved in leadership. You just really you never want to forget about the body when you're doing your work. And that's important for a lot of reasons. I want to share a few pieces about some of my experiences surrounding the Indigiqueer women in business. Like I mentioned, I've had a lot of really rad Indigenous women role models in my life. One in particular that I have to mention, she's going to laugh when she sees this because it's the same as me when we receive words of celebration. Sometimes we just have to like learn to claim those and to just be in peace with them. But my older sister, Raven Lacerte, she's 2 years older than me. And when we were 16 years old, she founded the Moosehide Campaign, which is a national movement that works to end violence towards women and children in Canada. We became, she felt compelled to found the Moosehide Campaign when we were hunting. We were moose hunters, and our territory runs along the Highway of Tears, or Highway 16. She felt compelled to start the movement by asking folks to wear a patch on their shirt, which I have right here. And she wanted to do this to start conversations because she said she felt so tired of having to educate folks on Canadian colonial history and maybe the rungs of racism that have caused Indigenous women to experience heightened levels of violence. So she wanted to raise awareness and to really bring this issue out from the dark and into the light so that it wouldn't be as pervasive as it is today. So this is what the pin looks like. I usually wear it on my hoodies or on my jackets. If you go to moosehidecampaign.ca, we will ship them to you anywhere in Canada for free. And that's always been our commitment. We can ship as little as 5 to you, just for you and the people in your house, and up to 5,000 for the organizations or communities that you work with. So don't be shy to order some pins, and maybe to reach out to her or myself using our Moosehide information, which I'll leave in the chat, just to chat with us a little bit and to hear more about that movement. The reason why I want to bring that up is because that was the first instance. I was 14 years old when it was founded. That was the first instance that I was exposed to mobilization, like building a mobilization. It was my first instance of becoming acclimatized to intergovernmental relations, so doing communication with government to be able to mobilize and further our movement. And it was also my first time public speaking and really becoming involved in community as a very young leader, as role modeled by my sister Raven and co-founded by my dad Paul. They really showed me and modeled what it looked like to make very serious personal sacrifices, i.e. Attending many community events, working tirelessly to ensure that their vision is being sought out, and to make as many community partnerships as possible to ensure that we can achieve our vision of ending violence in Canada. And the way that we hope to do that is by bringing people together in ceremony, and by starting more conversations, not just the conversation that you might have wearing the pin, let's say in a Starbucks when you're waiting for your coffee, someone says, "Hey, what's that on your shirt?" And you say, "Thank you so much for asking. It's a Moosehide pin and I'm wearing it to show my commitment to ending violence towards women and children in Canada." And then I like to take mine off and give it to that person so that they have it and that they have a reminder of where it came from. But I think the deeper conversations, the ones that I like to hear about, are the ones that occur around the dinner table. That's where those really intimate conversations can occur between relatives, between kin, between roommates. I would also say at once a year, we host a gathering called Moosehide Campaign Day. And it's always the same week as Valentine's Day, because everybody wants to talk about their relationships. Everybody wants to talk about how much they love each other and how important they are to each other, and their commitments to each other. So during that week, we ask folks who are willing to join us to make a few personal sacrifices. One being to join us at our event this year, or I guess in 2022, it'll be on February 10th. You're all welcome to come. And what we ask of you that day is to join us in ceremony. I don't know a lot of organizations that ask people to do ceremonies as a part of their national gatherings, but I'm really proud to be a part of a campaign that does. It reminds me of those coming of age ceremonies that I was referring to, that we've lost a little bit. And one of the aspects is a berry ceremony that we do after we fast. So we fast for the day from sunup to sundown. You don't eat or drink anything. And we can guide you about how that might look for different individuals based on your needs. But at the end of the day, we all come together. You get a cup of water and you get a handful of berries. And we sing you out of your ceremony. We sing you out of your fast. And then you get to eat your berries and you drink your cup of water. And it's a reminder of the personal commitments and sacrifices you're willing to make for those people that you love so dearly and that you care for so much. This is more of a cultural shift that we're looking for. And we recognize that it takes a really long time to change the way people behave and change the way people think about each other. But one of the most profound ways that we've been impacted at the Moosehide family is through ceremony. I've done 3 fasts where I didn't drink any water or eat any food for 3 days at a time. And I started fasting when I was 14 years old. I think that made me feel like I had a say. It made me feel like I was able to put up my prayers, I was able to put out my intentions, and I was able to not only express my opinions in the nonprofit world and in my organization and in my community, maybe at school, but I was also able to breathe them into Mother Earth and to breathe them up to the ancestral world and say, hey, this is what I'm here for. And I did that 3 times, and that made me believe in the theory of change at the campaign, which is to use ceremony as a way to make people realize how precious and important our matriarchs and our young ones are. I wanted to share a little bit about that and to offer that personal invitation to Moosehide Campaign Day, because I really believe that if we all come together in ceremony, it will do some healing that each of us need this year. And I know we've been so much in isolation, and it really carries the spirit of that togetherness that I was talking about. We're just like a lot stronger and happier together than we are when we're isolated. It feels important to acknowledge my sister Raven, because she was the one who carved the pathway for me to move. I think they're doing fire alarm testing. She's the one who carved the pathway for me to move forward as well. She had her daughter 3 years ago. Her name's Cedar Bear. I love her so much. And that was not my first experience of being an auntie, but this is the closest I've been to one of my nieces or nephews right when they were born. And she led me to, before, when I didn't really have too many kin, like I had my cousins, my little cousins and things like that. But when I realized, I don't think I'm gonna have children, but when I saw this baby that's my kin, that I love very much, and I want the world for her. I want to make the best conditions for her to live a life where she can just be herself and to pursue whatever her visions are. It made me, pushed the gas for me to be like, oh, I need to do something right now to make sure that everyone here is feels super supported, and that we're prepared to bring her into this world in a good way. I don't feel like we're really at a point in Canada where I can say that. I don't feel like we're at a point in British Columbia where I can say that when my 3-year-old niece grows up and is maybe my age, that she'll feel safe when she's in school. I'm not sure that she'll have equal opportunities when she enters whatever field of work that she chooses to. And honestly, I'm not sure that she'll be super happy with how we've left the state of Mother Earth, based on where we're at in this current moment. Michelle, I'd like to ask to take just a 2-minute break because it sounds like they're doing a fire test right now. Can I come back in?
No problem. Guys. All right.
No, I've got this. If Sage is listening, I'm working for Canada Post, but until the pandemic is over, I'm the cross-cultural communicator. My job is to try and get Indigenous truck drivers for Canada Post. But Sage, I was involved with my union, part of the Red Dress campaign. And I still have a couple of, I was handing out red dress pins with the, so would the red dress supersede the pin that you have? Or is it equal to, or just the same as, or does your pin replace the red dress pin? You're not familiar with the red dress?
Oh
Anyway.
yeah, sorry. I was just, waiting for, I was just coming off mute. No, thanks for the question. We certainly don't replace or supersede any other movement. I think that we're all really sister movements with similar or common goals for an extremely pressing issue in this country. Thank you for taking a quick break. I just had to go speak. So I guess they're doing annual fire testing in the building, and the posting had gone up in the lobby, but nobody's ever in the lobby in this building, so like a bunch of people didn't hear about it. So the people were really kind to come do my testing right now, so it shouldn't be too much louder anymore. Okay, sweet. I have a few more takeaways for y'all, which I think are super important. These are the things that I hope my niece Cedar Bear will be able to take when she's a bit older. These are really cool initiatives that I would encourage everyone here to consider. Number one is the Indigenous Lift Collective. That's specifically for Indigenous women entrepreneurs or folks who are interested in entrepreneurship. I've met so many influential folks who have helped me with my visioning, who've helped me take some of my ideas and bring them into fruition. And it's also just a broader network to help you really just kind of become more involved in the community. So I would encourage everyone to explore the Lift Collective if they are able to. The second one is similar, but it's for folks who are moving along in their business journey. It's called the Fireweed Fellowship. Again, it's for Indigenous women entrepreneurs and genderqueer folks. This is where I was trained. So I'm a Fireweed Fellow, and I was given some of the basic business skills that I needed to found my own business when I finished school. So in 2020, I went to the University of Victoria. I got a degree in gender studies. I really wanted to learn about how power asymmetries function in our society. I really wanted to learn about not only Canadian colonial history, but the gendered history associated, not just for Indigenous people, but for all of us in Canada. And it felt, it was incredibly illuminating and helped lead me to found my business, which is called Sage Initiative. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of myself for getting to where I have gotten to over the past few years after completing my degree, keeping in mind that my graduating class was the first class to graduate during COVID. So we were almost at the end of our degree. I'm finishing my capstone research, years and years towards this piece of paper. I'm so excited. I'm wearing my cap. I'm getting ready. Sorry. I'm getting ready to graduate, and everything shuts down. School's closed, campus is closed, no convocation, nothing. Like, all right, you graduated. It's a global pandemic, have fun. And we all got scooched out. And so I was like, okay, I could sit on my couch and watch Netflix for a year and see what happens. Or I still sit on my couch and watch Netflix all the time, but also I could build a social enterprise, so a business that gives back to the community, essentially, and do it in a way that creates its own network. So it builds its own network onto itself. And I was like, okay, so what did I not learn in school that I need in my tool basket to build this rad Indigenous excellence world that I'm looking for? And the biggest thing that I've seen is my friends who have all these like really rad ideas, business ideas, who are currently entrepreneurs. We know that Indigenous women are incredibly entrepreneurial. Is that they needed more money. They were always like, hey, I have this really good idea. My business is taking off, but I'm constantly needing more money. The number one barrier for Indigenous entrepreneurs is a lack of access to capital. So I sat with that for a while, and it was super frustrating too. I was like, I feel like we shouldn't really have to be begging for money all the time as well. This is really something that I think that was the problem I wanted to solve. And so my answer to that was to train a national network of Indigenous women impact investors who could then facilitate the flow of capital to Indigenous women entrepreneurs. That is where we kind of come into this circular economy piece, where we build community wealth literally by investing in our own communities and being able to support community initiatives, as well as initiatives that not only have social impacts, but we're also looking for those environmental impacts. So making sure that the businesses that we support are as close to carbon zero as possible, or for example, are based in the green energy sector rather than crude oil in energy. And then finally, we also, because we work in investment, we also look for financial return. We believe that it's not a bad thing to make money. And I've seen a lot of Indigenous folks that I've been mentored by work tirelessly throughout their career, and to not have been recognized for their work that they put in. And that's emotional labor, that's the time that they spent, that's countless years on top of each other in lived experience. And it didn't seem to me in the public sector that work was being recognized. So when I started my company, Sage Initiative was incorporated as a for-profit business. And the way that we've been able to sustain ourselves, we absolutely do not charge any of our Indigenous women impact investors any fee for joining. You would join at zero cost. And that's because I believe that all the things that we learn in our collective is our birthright to know. These are teachings, these are ancient teachings that our ancestors created for us, and that they live in our blood, they live in our hair and our voice and our eyes, they live in our relationships to our relatives and our non-human relatives. They live in the water. It's so important to be able to connect with those things So we never charge any of our participants a fee for taking the SAGE Initiative investment training. But I do want to acknowledge that a huge learning step for me. I was like, oh, I have this super innovative idea. I'm going to change the world, but I don't have any money. So I was a part of the group that was looking for money to help my business. So I ran up against the problem that I'm trying to solve for. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay. I'm up against this perceived lack of capital. How do I solve this? And the Indigenous Innovation Initiative opened their first pre-revenue seed funding grant for Indigenous women entrepreneurs. And I applied. There was more than 200 ideas, Indigenous women entrepreneurs across Canada who applied. I think they probably cut that down to 100, maybe 50, 10, 5, and I landed somewhere in that top 5. And they said, this idea is going to change the way that our economy functions. You need to start now. So going from graduating college and having an idea to a few months later, taking this concept phase idea, incorporating, becoming a business, and launching our business 2 weeks ago in October. So I'm very happy to share that the first cohort of Indigenous women entrepreneurs and impact investors is being trained as we speak. We meet for 6 months of the year. This isn't teachings that you can learn overnight. This is something that we need to integrate. So we gave ourselves some time. We meet once a month for 6 months, and you learn kind of the technical aspects of investing, as well as some Indigenous concepts of commerce. And we learn a lot about the trauma of money. We learn a lot about the way that money and wealth and our ideas around money and wealth have influenced us, have influenced the way we think of ourselves and our relationships to each other, and to our things like where we live and our car, and how we eat, how we nourish ourselves. So we learn about all of those things at SAGE, and a really central concept and one of the central values that we've been able to hold and maintain is that when I go to meetings, and when I made my first investment in an Indigenous owned green energy company, there was only it's Indigenous owned, so there's an Indigenous owner. And I used an Indigenous intermediary, which is very rare. Everyone else was like old white men. So really, I wanted to make sure that we got as many Indigenous women's bums in those economic seats at the economic table, really is how I can call on that. And again, I just want to reference some places that you can go to learn more about this. Carol Ann Hilton at Indiginomics is a wealth of knowledge. She recently released her book, Indiginomics, Taking a Seat at the Economic Table. I highly recommend everyone read her book. I think it's for everyone to read. It's not for people who are involved in social finance. It's for every single person to read. I would also suggest taking a look at the Indigenous Innovation Initiative. This is the first time that Grand Challenges Canada has offered to open a fund for Indigenous women entrepreneurs. Normally, they don't operate in Canada. They offer international development funds around the world. And this is the very first time that they've chosen to invest in our people. And I think this is a moment in time that we should celebrate and really recognize. As a young leader and as a queer person, it's been challenging. I think having those intersectional identities of being a young person, of being a visibly Indigenous person, as having put myself out there as being queer and a feminist, it makes people have their own perceptions about how my business might function or how I might speak to them. And I hope that throughout this conversation, I've exhibited some of those traits. I hope throughout this conversation that I've exhibited some of those traits that I just called on. And really, something that my dad says a lot that I love to hear is that a lot of our work, you have to have one hand in the sky and one hand in the soil. So you're kind of dreaming, you're visioning, but you're also very connected to this rhizome that all of us are a part of, this breathing, living thing that really is kind of hosted by Mother Earth. And so I always want to ground myself in that spirit and that aspect of my identity. I think it kind of comes out in terms of a little bit of my medicines. I often dream. I dream really special things that I don't think everybody dreams about. I'm a birth worker by trade. I'm a birthing doula, and I bring Black and brown babies earthside. This winter, I'll be welcoming 2 Indigenous babies into the world, and I always want to keep those aspects of my work very close to me. And when I have the opportunity to share these experiences, I always am cautious to call too much on the technical aspects of business and corporate and entrepreneurship, and promoting the idea that you can bootstrap, and that like if you work hard enough, like these are all of the magical pieces of wealth, and all of your wildest dreams will come true. I think some of those things are very legitimate, and I think some of those things can be really harmful to the mind and to the body. And that's why I wanted to be really honest with you today. And I wanted to really share some intimacies about my personal life and my family life, and to just share with you that I'm doing things other than my business to make sure it's all in balance. And a final note and personal piece of advice, although I know you didn't ask for any advice, but if I can impart something that has really essentially changed the way that I perceive my experience as a leader and innovator with a bold idea this year, is that we need to rely on each other in all of the realms. We need to rely on each other emotionally and spiritually and physically and mentally, to be able to sustain ourselves, to be sustainable in our work, and to be sustainable over generations. If we continue to burn ourselves out and to value that kind of style of work where you don't take any breaks, and where you are working too much to take time for your mental health, or to take time to do those ceremonies, or to take time to spend time with your niece or nephew or relative, then we won't achieve our ultimate impact goals. I learned that when I got really excited about my business and I felt like I could only say yes. And I had to learn something about consent this year and what it feels like, and how to say, actually, I feel pretty busy right now. No, thank you. And if I know that this seems like a pretty standard piece of advice, but to really just consider into consideration how we use consent in our business practice, and to be willing to say no, or I'm very down for that, but maybe can we do it on these terms? Can I ask for these things if we're going to meet in this way? I wanted to end on that note because I know how it can feel like when there's so many opportunities coming your way that you want to accept all those things and you want to be able to meet everyone where they're at. But again, I think nourishing ourselves, nourishing our spirit, nourishing our bodies, nourishing our minds, and being willing to know when to take a break and when we have the energy to hit the gas and go for it, is something that we can do when we check in with our bodies, like when we did that first breath. So reminder to take a breath when you're doing your work and to check in with yourself and say, is this my value or is this person's value? Do I want to really go for this? Do I have the energy for this? And to always follow your intuition. So I really appreciate having a moment with you all today and to have the opportunity to share some of my lived experiences as a young innovator with a bold idea, as an Indigiqueer rad feminist. And I really hope that if anyone wants to reach out, my Instagram and website and email are all Sage Initiative. And I'll make sure to leave my information in the chat so that if anybody wants to reach out, that they're very welcome to chat with me about any of the topics or stories that I shared today. Masi Cho, thank you so much for your attention.
Wow, Sage. I really honor your authenticity. I really honor your voice that you have brought to the conversation of entrepreneurship. I think there were some pieces in there that don't get talked about often, such as, the self-care. Don't overwork yourself. Don't jump at every opportunity, and just, honor your own spirit and your own mental health for the greater good, right? So, wow, you just brought some really good pieces today. So I just really thank you so much. One thing, I had to write it down, but I've never heard this before, that your father has said, one hand in the sky and one hand in the soil. And that just speaks such balance to me. So thank you for that. And there was a whole bunch of other things that I wrote down. And I know Ken said something in the chat box. He says, thank you for sharing. And then one rule that's count on that applies in your friendship center is you first give, then you get. So that's reciprocity, speaking about that. And that's what it truly is all about. Just so you know, I have a friend who's non-Indigenous who this year got a group of people together in Edmonton to honor the Moosehide Campaign. And so they did the fast, sunrise to sundown. They did that fast and they did the berry ceremony together. So, that Moosehide Campaign is like doing what it's meant to do. It's reaching. And you talked about ceremony and how that's integral to everything we do. And so I really appreciate that you brought that teaching back. And hopefully whatever we do in whether it's business, personal, whatever part of our life, we always have that ceremony. We always honor creator and the ancestors and our culture and teachings in that way. So thank you so much. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments before we close. I'll just press pause and let you say something. That would be you or sorry, that would be Lori or Ken. We'd love to hear from you. And there's no pressure.
It's Ken. I've got one comment. Many years ago, I was in a restaurant and I walked past a fellow it was in province of Quebec, and I walked past a fellow and I admired his lapel pin. And when I admired his lapel pin, he described what it was and he insisted that he gave it to me. So this is what Sage did with her pin. So I still remember. Now I have the pin somewhere. It was quite a nice, attractive pin, but I still remember it was from the municipality of St. Therese. So when you give away your pins, insist that when somebody asks about it, you don't donate it to them, and it will stick in their mind, and it follows that rule. First you give, then you get. I can still remember his municipality, and this was like many years ago. St. Therese de Gatineau. I don't. He was a mayor or a councilor or whatever, but when he gave me that pin, I still remember that. Like it was totally unexpected. Because I admired it, he insisted you take it. He took it off his jacket and put it on my jacket. So anyway, that's all I had to share.
Thanks for sharing that, Ken. Yeah, I just put the link in the chat. If you ever wanted to order more pins, we'll send them anywhere in Canada for free by mail.
That's amazing. Amazing. All right. Well, that's our hour. I felt like I could have listened to more of your teaching, Sage, but I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you on social media, and I will follow you. So thank you so much. Such a great hour with you. Even though the fire alarms were going off, the message still came through.
It's still going.
So we honestly, like, we celebrate you. So keep doing your thing. You're bringing your message. You're bringing your light. Keep going. Keep going. All right. So thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you have a good rest of the day. I don't know about you. I'm going for a walk. I'm going to spend some time with Mother Earth. Just make that good connection. So do something that connects to your spirit. Have a good rest of the day, rest of the week, and we'll see you again. Peace.